7 countries that are most hardest to live in and why. Number 7. North Korea. North Korea exists in a state of self-imposed isolation, ruled by a totalitarian regime. Citizens face a harsh reality where basic freedoms and movement are severely restricted. The economy is poorly managed, healthcare is lacking, and strict control of society creates an oppressive environment. In North Korea, individual liberties are restricted and necessities are scarce. Food shortages and a struggling healthcare system are the grim consequences of isolationist policies. Many lack access to essential medication and treatment, leaving them vulnerable to preventable diseases. The oppressive atmosphere is worsened by the ubiquitous propaganda machine, creating a society with little hope for individual expression or improvement. Number 6. Somalia. For decades, Somalia has been trapped in a relentless cycle of instability. The land is scarred by frequent eruptions of clan violence, leaving civilians caught in the crossfire like helpless prey. Beyond the terror of armed conflict, piracy also runs rampant along the coast, threatening maritime trade and coastal communities with its lawlessness. The central government, weakened by years of unrest, struggles to establish control and enforce law and order. This lack of authority creates a dangerous environment where violence can erupt with little warning, engulfing innocent lives in its wake. Even beyond the threat of violence, daily life in Somalia is a constant struggle for survival. Limited access to food and water leaves many facing hunger and dehydration. Droughts and floods add to these challenges, disrupting agriculture and displacing people from their homes. The combination of insecurity, resource scarcity, and natural disasters makes Somalia an incredibly difficult place to live. Number 5. The Central African Republic. The Central African Republic is gripped by the chaos of civil war and sectarian violence. Armed groups hold dominion over vast areas, leaving civilians constantly vulnerable to violence. The constant threat of violence hangs like a dark cloud over daily life, making even simple tasks fraught with danger. The economy lies in ruins, unable to provide even a semblance of stability. Healthcare and education systems, already fragile before the conflict, are barely functional, leaving people with limited access to medical care and education. This combination of violence, economic collapse, and a lack of basic services makes the Central African Republic an extremely difficult place to live. Number 4. Syria. For years, Syria has been ravaged by an ongoing civil war. The once bustling cities now lie in ruins, their streets lined with debris and destruction. Countless families have been torn from their homes, forced to become refugees, and seek shelter within their own borders as internally displaced persons. The constant fighting has left the nation's infrastructure decimated, roads cracked and pitted, buildings crumbling and reduced to rubble. Life's necessities, such as clean water, reliable electricity, and an adequate food supply, are scarce luxuries as resources are stretched thin amidst the chaos of conflict. The presence of numerous armed groups vying for power creates a volatile security situation where violence can erupt at any moment, leaving even the simplest tasks a dangerous gamble. As Syria's future hangs in the balance, the daunting task of rebuilding a safe and stable nation seems almost insurmountable amid the unimaginable devastation wrought by years of war. Number 3. Venezuela. Against a backdrop of mismanagement and political turmoil, Venezuela is embroiled in a devastating economic crisis. The once booming economy has been crippled by hyperinflation, causing the national currency to lose nearly all value. As prices soar to unimaginable heights, even basic necessities like food and medicine become luxuries that many Venezuelans simply cannot afford. The dire situation has resulted in severe food shortages, and citizens are forced to scavenge for every scrap just to survive. With their standard of living in freefall, daily life is plagued by constant power outages that leave entire regions shrouded in darkness and cut off from essential services. In this climate of economic collapse and scarcity, Venezuela has become an almost impossible place to call home. Number 2. South Sudan. After gaining independence just over 10 years ago, South Sudan still bears the scars of a brutal civil war. The country is on edge, with ethnic tensions constantly threatening to erupt into violence. This looming threat hangs over everyday life and makes even the most basic needs difficult to fulfill. Many South Sudanese lack access to clean water and proper sanitation, increasing the risk of waterborne illnesses. Healthcare options are limited, leaving the population vulnerable to outbreaks of diseases. The fragile peace is constantly at risk, and any return to violence would further destabilize this already struggling nation. Living in South Sudan means facing the aftermath of war, navigating ongoing tensions between ethnic groups, and enduring a constant battle for basic necessities and safety. Number 1. Afghanistan. After decades of relentless conflict, Afghanistan is a country in dire straits. Its once promising infrastructure now lies in ruins. Roads are impassable, electricity is unreliable, and basic services are practically non-existent. This crippled infrastructure not only makes daily life a struggle, but also hinders the economy, leaving limited opportunities for growth and leading to widespread poverty. The constant threat of food insecurity looms over the population as many struggle to afford or even find enough to eat amidst the turmoil. The situation is further complicated by a lack of access to healthcare and education. Dilapidated hospitals and a severe shortage of doctors leave the people vulnerable to illness. Limited educational opportunities trap generations in poverty and hinder the country's progress and development. This bleak picture is darkened even more by ongoing violence and political instability. Safety and security are a luxury for many, making even basic tasks like going about daily life an overwhelming challenge.